Today, I'm going to build one of my most expensive PVC projects. I want to replace this dresser with an equivalent PVC version. This project won't be difficult to build, but it's the number of PVC joints that will add to the cost. Using PVC will have some benefits though, and I'll show you what they are next. There's not that many different pieces in today's build, which is why it'll be an extremely easy one. The only two parts needed are the PVC pipes and tees. The catch is I'll need a lot of each. Also, I had to guess the number of pieces I'll need because I wasn't sure of the bin sizes that'll be used as drawers, but more on that in a little bit. Also, you'll notice the PVC pipes in the bucket are already cut. I did this at the hardware store, and it's something I always have to do when buying PVC pipe. PVC pipe is sold in 10-foot lengths, but because that's way too long to fit in my car, I have to cut it shorter to get it to fit. For this particular project, many of the pieces need to be 25 3/4 inch in length, so I cut the 12 pieces I needed of that length from each of the 10-foot lengths of PVC pipe while still at the hardware store. I had thought about different ways to make a drawer slide system using PVC. Eventually though, I decided that it would be a lot easier to build something like a utility shelf with bins as drawers. This would be similar to what you'd see in a workshop where a large shelving unit would have lots of small bins for all the different items you could fill each bin with. The difference here is I'd use a single large bin on each shelf to act as a drawer. One thing I wasn't sure about was the size of the bin I'd want to use. For now, I did buy bins of all the same size, but I made sure to not buy enough, and depending on how this project looks towards the end, I'll buy maybe 1 or 2 larger bins later. I did say this build was an easy one, but a time-consuming preliminary step I have to do before I can actually start building is to ream out all the tees. I'm usually okay with reaming 10 to 15 joints, but today I'm going to have to ream 75 joints. Knowing it'll be more than a day of continuous work, what I'm going to do is ream till the battery begins to lose torque, recharge it, then repeat that process the following day. It'll be some days before I finally finish, but I'm not in a rush for this project, especially considering I may want a second dresser and will have to repeat this process for that one. The first 20 tees in this box took me 2 hours to ream. I had mentioned earlier that I would ream until the battery went dead, then wait to continue the next day while I waited for the battery to recharge. I'm sort of happy to say that my back gave out before the battery did. If I could have continued reaming, I would have, but my back started to hurt from constantly being hunched over while drilling, so I decided to stop. At that point, my drill hadn't even begun to lose torque, and I felt like I could have gone on reaming for at least another 10 tees. One thing I realized might have helped was if I left the battery pack on the drill, since the weight of it would have helped with the downward force needed while reaming. I'll try that when I continue later. I can now start the construction of the dresser with these parts. I finally completed reaming all 75 tees, which took just shy of 2 weeks. I did mount the battery directly to the drill, and the added weight did help push down on the drill during reaming. I also used a stool to do the reaming from a seated position, which helped me save my own energy so I was able to ream for longer periods of time. I had thought of multiple ways to build the dresser, thinking through building one section first, then deciding what should follow. For myself, I'm going to complete building all of the shelves first. Another option would have been to build the front half first, then the rear, then connect everything in the middle. Yet another way would have been to build everything from the bottom up. I had thought about doing this, but later chose something similar, which is to build the shelves first. I felt it was helpful to not need the longer PVC pipes immediately. With all the shelves completed, I'll now construct the entire dresser. A technique I thought might be a quick way of getting all the shelves mounted was to stack all of them on the floor, lining up all the joints for the vertical posts, then inserting the vertical posts through each set of stacked joints on each corner. This turned out to be harder than I thought. My advice would be not to do it this way. Knowing what I know now, I feel it's better to build the dresser from the bottom up starting with the first shelf on the floor and all 4 posts sticking out of it. Then, slide each shelf on one by one. The shelves will be a lot easier to work with in this way. Something that helped speed up the mounting of the shelves to the posts was this wooden spacer I cut to measure the exact gap I needed between the shelf tees on the vertical posts. This created the exact spacing I needed between shelves for the bins to fit not too tight and not too loose. Something I did out of order was to put most of the screws in before sliding the vertical posts in. I initially wanted to put the screws in last once the entire dresser was done, just in case adjustments were needed for squareness and drawer spacing. Due to the size and weight of the dresser, that was not possible, and I ended up putting most of the screws in even before I put the vertical posts in, with the only screws not mounted being the ones that hold the shelves to the vertical posts. Something else that was not planned was leaving the vertical posts long. I initially planned to cut them just above the uppermost tee at just over 4 feet, but then felt I may need to add drawers later. So I ended up leaving the posts long with lots of space for future expansion. Something I didn't expect was that everything in the old dresser fit easily into the bins of the new PVC dresser. The height and depth of the new bins are about the same as the old drawers, but the width of the bin is about 6 inches short of the old drawer's width. I guess when I noticed the old dresser drawers were filled up, I didn't pay attention to the fact each drawer wasn't filled up to the top, with only the drawer bottoms being covered with stuff and maybe filled up no more than half the height of the drawer. Transferring everything into the smaller bins was actually going to work. I did go out and get a couple more bins. If you noticed, all the bins are covered, and it's because I have items in there that I didn't want collecting dust. On the other hand, things like clothes and towels will probably be left uncovered since those items rotate in and out fast enough where they won't have enough time to collect dust. I hope you too can add this new piece of furniture to your room or household. Leave your questions and comments in the comment section below. That's all I have for now, and I'll catch you in the next video.